Russian President Putin reiterates his warning against the arming of the Syrian opposition, as this would only aggravate the crisis. Our armed forces continue their national task in clearing the country of the terrorist groups. Morsi's policy is met with popular turmoil, and confrontations take place with his supporters in Al-Gharbiya governorate. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Yerado Krikorian from the News Center in Damascus. Russian President Vladimir Putin has reiterated his warning from Ireland against the arming of the Syrian opposition, which he said would only aggravate the crisis in Syria, adding that the bloodshed can be stopped through political means only. During a press conference at the conclusion of the Group of 8 summit, Putin said Russia has called on its partners to continue work for holding the Geneva International Conference on Syria. Putin said no conclusion can be reached about the use of chemical weapons in Syria except after a thorough investigation into all reports on this subject, calling for an earnest consideration of the reports made about chemical weapons seized with Syrian opposition members in Turkey. Putin called on the West not to rush in arming the Syrian opposition due to the absence of the surveillance mechanism of the way it will be used in the future, referring to the presence of extremists among the ranks of the Syrian opposition. The Russian president said his country was supplying weapons to the government in Syria in accordance with legal contracts signed with the legitimate government, describing Moscow's stand as absolutely justifiable morally and legally. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has voiced his country's adherence to the need to build a just and safe world order on the basis of international law and the UN Charter, and its efforts to enhance the moral basis of international relations. In a letter addressed to the participants in the international conference dedicated to the anniversary of the Great National War, Lavrov said Russia considered as unacceptable the attempts to forge historical facts, adding that such attempts at present are far from being scarce. He pointed out that the war had clearly revealed the repercussions of violence, racist hatred and genocide. It is to be noted that Russia had commemorated on the 9th of this month the 68th anniversary of its victory in World War II, which it calls the Great National War over Nazi Germany. Welcome back. In Hom's countryside, an army unit foiled an infiltration attempt by an armed terrorist group which tried to cross Syrian-Lebanese borders near Al-Tahuna in the Talkalakh countryside and inflicted heavy losses upon them. Army units also eliminated a gathering of terrorists in the village of Talaf in Al-Hula countryside and Hawara region in Jussieh, destroying their weapons and ammunition. In Palmyra countryside, army units chased terrorists near Al-Qabab restaurant west of Al-Hir Al-Sharqi Palace and destroyed 2 heavy machine guns and 2 booby-trapped cars, as second army unit killed a number of terrorists on At-Tiba Al-Sukhna road. An explosion took place in Al-Bassa neighborhood in the outskirts of Latakia city this morning, and smoke was seen rising from the site. An official source said the blast that occurred at a military engineering unit was the result of a technical failure. 6 citizens were slightly injured. An army unit has meanwhile destroyed a Jabhat al-Nusra gathering in a Sukkariya village in Latakia northern suburbs, including the terrorists and their weapons. In Hamas suburbs, the authorities foiled a suicidal attempt by a non-Syrian to blow up a Kia truck at a military checkpoint in Al-Ghab. The truck was loaded with 1.5 tons of explosives carried in barrels originally designed to transfer milk. In Daraa, army units continued to chase terrorists in a number of neighborhoods in Daraa al-Balad, killing and wounding a number of them. An army unit eliminated a number of terrorists and destroyed their weapons and ammunition in the towns of Shabraq, Saysoon, Tsil and Jilin in Daraa countryside. Also in Daraa, our army units confiscated 34 anti-tank land mines inside the terrorist den and killed a number of terrorists inside it. In Idlib Governorate, several terrorist hideouts were destroyed in 3 positions in Jisr al-Shughul suburbs, in addition to 7 other sites in Idlib suburbs. An army unit inflicted huge losses on terrorists in 3 villages in Ma'arat al-Nu'man, while another unit killed and wounded armed men in the surroundings of the central prison. In Deir ez-Zor, our armed forces intercepted an attempt by terrorists to attack several government headquarters, eliminating a number of armed men. The army units also killed several terrorists, including non-Syrians, when they tried to attack the military police branch near the Capuchi Church and Bimo Bank. The terrorists carried out another attack after the dawn prayers, detonating the commercial secondary school for boys. They tried to infiltrate to advanced areas, but were intercepted by the soldiers, who eliminated a large number of them and forced them to flee, leaving behind their stolen and smuggled equipment. The Latin church was also detonated by the terrorists, who had dug a tunnel under it. Nothing was left of the church except the debris. The terrorists also took refuge in Martyr Nasser al-Jassim secondary school, but were forced out by the soldiers. Meanwhile, Syrian Arab army units proceed in the towns of al-Wahdaliyah and al-Husayna in Damascus countryside, approaching from different axes in order to encircle the terrorists, trying hard to protect the infrastructure. TV footage shows scenes of devastation and killing left by the terrorists in both towns. Now to Egypt, where Egypt's Minister of Tourism has resigned following the appointment of a new governor in the temple city of Luxor, who belongs to an Islamic party linked to a deadly attack on tourists. Hisham Zazu said that following the appointment of Adel al-Khayyat, a member of the political arm of ex-Islamic militant group Jama'a Islamiyya, he cannot continue in his role as Minister of Tourism. Khayyat's nomination sparked fury across the tourism sector, a once lucrative industry which has been devastated in the aftermath of 2011 uprising that toppled Hosni Mubarak. Khayyat belongs to the Construction and Development Party, the political arm of Jama'a Islamiyya, which was blamed for a spate of attacks in the 1990s before it renounced violence. The new governor claimed responsibility for an attack on a major tourist attraction in Luxor in southern Egypt that killed 58 foreign holidaymakers in 1997. Finally, Turkey's government is working on legislation to restrict the use of Twitter and other social media, blamed for the worst unrest the country has experienced in decades. Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan defended his police and vowed to increase his powers to deal with unrest. Riot police were again deployed in Turkey's 2 main cities of Istanbul and Ankara. Thousands have flooded the streets nightly, many honking car horns and waving Turkish flags, shouting slogans which called for the departure of Erdogan. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region, and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Vani Gönjian after a short break.
afternoon. The Central Bank of Syria started to pump since yesterday the foreign currencies to the other national banks in order to finance the importing operations according to the needs of the market. The central bank sold what is equivalent to $8 million at a price of 175 Syrian pounds for each dollar. Dr. Edip Meyale, governor of the Central Bank of Syria, also announced selling 50 million euros to the companies and exchange offices in order to finance the non-commercial operations and to meet the individual's demands on foreign currencies at a price decided daily by the central bank, as each citizen has the right to buy 1,000 euros per month. Meyale added that the exchange rate fell about 30 Syrian pounds in response to these measures. The Director General of the cement establishment warned from using the cement that enters the Syrian territory illegally. The director also pointed out that the establishment's current production is not sufficient to cover the local market's needs, especially after the cement factory Al-Shahba is out of service, after terrorists looted its equipment, in addition to the decreasing production of the Syrian company of cement in Hama by 35%, asserting that the cement company in Adra has resumed its work last week. Director General of the sugar establishment Basil Ahwez said that certain amounts of sugar beets will be received this season, starting from next month. Ahwez added that 320,000 tons of sugar beet are expected this season, mostly in Hama and Al-Raqqa governorates. The manufacturing will take place in Tel Sahab company, taking into consideration that the cultivated amounts suit the production capacities of that company. Ahwez added that the production plan was to produce 1,300,000 tons of sugar by planting an area of more than 25,000 hectares of land, but the actual planted areas this year are only 7,000 hectares. The American crude oil traded near the highest price in 9 months. After an industry report showed that U.S. stockpiles dropped last week, futures were little changed after rising 0.7% yesterday. U.S. stocks rose for a second day, pushing the Standard & Poor's 500 index to its highest in June. While the European stocks fluctuated between gains and losses as investors awaited the conclusion of the Federal Reserve's policy meeting for indications on stimulus measures, Japanese shares, on the other hand, advanced, with the TOPIX index climbing for a fourth day. The Jewelers Assembly set the price of the 21-carat gold at 7,200 Syrian pounds per gram, after declining 200 Syrian pounds from yesterday, while the Rashadi golden coin was set at 52,300 Syrian pounds, and the English golden coin was set at 58,400 Syrian pounds. The yen rose for the first time in 3 days versus the dollar, amid bets that the Federal Reserve chairman will refrain from saying that the central bank is moving toward ending bond purchases at a press conference today. Japan's currency advanced against all except one of its 16 major counterparts. With this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.